I've lost everybody, but I've got. So yeah, right. So that's the beginning. I think I can. Now, have I got control of it, Ben?
Yes, you should have control now. So just arrow through your presentation as normal. So the right arrow key should advance the presentation.
Yeah, it's not doing that at the moment.
It's waiting for you to
happening.
set the controls.
You can control Ben Stewart's screen. Okay, so. No, I just can't advance with different microphone speaker. Can you control it from your end?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
Just let me know with the next, and I'll advance it.
Well, have I got control, Ben? Yeah. All right. So just to begin by recognising to just advise that I'm Kungarrikan from my mother's side, Niwija from my father's side, in Darwin and just outside of Darwin, and all other people here. Oh, Ben, I just changed it then, so that was good. So I have got control now. Look, my presentation hopefully will go for 30, but I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, we are in very, very telling times at the moment with COVID-19, and it's something that's unprecedented for most of us. It's you know, a new world that we're living in, and you know, the old normal ain't going to be the new normal. As far as until we're told otherwise, we're still progressing as a TIS program. I was just talking to Trudy this morning, and to get some confirmation on this, and they can't tell. Some you know, things might change, but what's going to really affect the program? It's about us working with the community and with groups, which is something we can't do. And so you know, that bit of our change, I guess, and also what we do into the future is going to change, and how we go about our business, especially when we're all working solo, or if we're forced to work from home, and that includes our staff, and some services have already taken that position. Others are still working out of the office, and so forth. So I think the bottom line is really that we still have a TIS program. All the elements of the TIS program are still, aka we've still got you know, all the teams operating around the nation. We just got to do that a bit differently. We've still got Quitline is operating, you know, and our fund for quit skills, and we'll touch a little bit on quit skills a bit later about where we're going. Our evaluations will still take place, which is going to be important because, you know, we're halfway through the 4 years. What's challenging, and we're kind of working through this with the teams. Reagan will give a bit of a spiel later today about what's happening on the ANU. Desley might give a bit of a mention later about Circa and where we are with Circa. But, you know, just to reassure that our funding hasn't changed, but we never know. Day by day, we hear it every night that there's a, you know, a new announcement, and and we've just got to look at rolling with those as the government announces them. We still have really the two priority groups, and that's pregnant mothers and remote. And whilst remote doesn't affect us here in the South Australian jurisdictional one, it does have an impact across the north. Like if you can advance, Ben, one more slide. It's not letting me do it. Yeah. Again, this slide is just reiterating what I've already discussed, and I've used this slide before at the population health and you know the bit that may be affected is how we go about our business, and really the key thing. So move on to the next one, Ben. The program as we know it, and I've already gone through this, is there. I think what's important, I'll touch on this a bit more later, is how do we work, and this is work that Desley and the NBPU and the Canberra people and myself will be doing, is trying to get a handle on what the state territories are doing as far as their funding. Some of them may have rediverted attentions to other things because health is a priority. So we're not sure, but we're trying to gain some appreciation of that as we go along. Okay, thanks, Ben. The good news, and this is the latest update of the figure that we've got, and taking into account the 2018-19 figures that have just come out. Previously, it was the 2012-13 figures. But you know, I suppose it's both good news. The good news is that the number of ex-smokers is increasing, but we've plateaued in you know, the daily smokers. That's only been a very small reduction there, and those who have never smoked, that was going great down a bit now. So we've got a, you know, and that's something that we hadn't anticipated, because we thought, you know, particularly with the youth side of it, that was, you know, cruising along pretty well. But you know, we've got to do a bit more analysis on that one. That's the right-hand side figure. The table there, which you can see, has actually gone down, which is a bit of a worry. But anyhow, but I still put in where the non-Indigenous figure is, way down to 14% or thereabouts. So we've still got a way to go there. Next one, thanks, Ben. And this one here is showing you where the progress is being made, and in remote, it's not moving. It's still well and truly above 50% smoking. And you know, some of our communities, particularly in the territory, are really up to 70–80%. You know, smokers, and starting at a young age as well. But in urban environments, we are seeing that's where the movement is, and so you know, we've got to try and work out why that's happening a lot more, and I suppose we'll pick up a bit of the evaluations, and particularly the ANU evaluation, the big evaluation, when they go down and have a look at who is actually giving up and where people are located. But you know, it's not something we can say, well done, job done, because we're reducing in urban areas. We've got to say that, you know, we're still in, whereas the general population's down to 14, so we've still got to halve it, over halve it. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But our real challenge is in remote. Still a priority, and it's actually, you know, a big concern, because what are we and how do we go about making that change? Next one, thanks, Ben. What we will still be doing is the NBPU newsletter will still go out, and we'll be looking at contributions probably more than ever. We've now a big way of communicating amongst each other, looking at new strategies and getting information out. So I can just urge everybody to come out and also contribute to them. You know, in good ideas. But I'll touch a bit more on where else we can contribute a bit later. And also we're still putting out that monthly communique, which goes, you know, particularly to the state and territory governments, people, to keep them informed, major bodies, because this is more than just us as the TIS workforce. This is how we bring everybody together to work on common objectives and in the same direction. So, yep, thanks, Ben. Next one. So, you know, and I'm going to really touch on this at the end of it, but I think some of the things I'd like you to think about as we go, and these are some of the things that that we need to really think about. And if we just take it in say a 6 month, you know, the next 6 months, what are we going? You know, one of the first questions you might ask is, well, you know, we've already got an activity plan, and we can't do all of that. With this current talk about maybe we get the department will and we'll get some ideas. This workshop today, which will guide the way that we might go. But what I'm suggesting to the department is that we just suspend the current activity plans. Activity plan across all services that just says what we need to achieve in the next 6 months, and that's going to be influenced by what that you can do. Things like, you know, what can we do, or what do we need to do in the 6 months? How do we operate in a home-based environment, particularly if we're working, you know, reporter activities. If we're not in the office, we don't have access to the mainstream reporting. You know, do we have enough infrastructure or resources to be able to work from home? We need to look at that and you know, get your guidance about what support you need, particularly from the NBPU and myself. And you know, from my side of it, I'm thinking that, you know, it's going to contact. Because I'm also restricted. I'm actually almost getting withdrawals, not flying anywhere. I'm being stuck at home already, and you know, you know, I normally travel every week somewhere and be talking to people face to face, and so it's a changed environment that's affecting all of us. So it is a learning experience. Touch on that at the end of it a bit more. But that's just to sort of start thinking in the presentation and why I'm putting up a few of the figures that we're going on, and what I see some of the priority groups and priority activities that we can do. Then next slide. Okay. If we're working from home, who are the sort of people, and how do we start to direct our messaging? Because it's going to be, we're going to have to be creative in all of this. And these slides are really for your reference a bit later to see where the high smokers are, and so maybe you can think about, well, how do we just people who are, you know, on you know, overindulge in alcohol, which is going to be a real big problem. Pubs are closing, but bottle shops are bloody, you know, and people are stocking up because they can't drink with anybody else, so they're going to be drinking at home. So you can just imagine, you know, they're going to be home drinking and smoking. So we need to look at sort of those activities. But they're just the priority groups. We won't be able to reach them all, but that's just for information. Ben, next one. And again, one of the pro groups, this is just drilling down a bit on the, I mentioned before, mental health was a big issue. And we look at those people with a different mental health challenge, and these are the sort of people that are out there. So, we're not experts in this, but there might be some of us who are experts. Go to Dewey, you'll see a bit more of an announcement towards the end of the week. The mental health, social, emotional wellbeing, and suicide prevention group. We're working on activities around those areas, and particularly we know in pandemics, we know when there's a lot of people losing their job when they feel insecure, that if we follow the global trends, more people taking their own life or self-harming. We'll see more family violence in homes, and I don't want to bring that family, that's only mental health issues, but to say that confinement does raise a whole range of issues. They're just things to be aware of. Next one, thanks, Ben. This is one, and in times of really constraint, and I mentioned and overindulging, this is the sort of material that we can show people. Now, I've highlighted, this is one that we did when good old cigarettes were only $40 a packet. They're up to 50 plus. So that just shows more and more funding, but this is just, resources for you to have at the back of your mind. But we've still got the programs like My Quit Buddy app and other apps that we can access to help guide people. But the economic impacts as well as the health impacts are going to be important, and particularly now with so many people out of work. Thing that is going to be influential as to smoking and alcohol and other drugs that people might be pursuing, because they won't have the dollars to be able to do it, or they're still hooked on it. Then it's going to have a bigger burden on the home purse. Thanks, Ben, and we'll upgrade this to the $50 packet plus anyhow, and send it out. Thanks, Ben. I'll mention pregnant mothers, and this is a slide that you've probably seen before. I used it before, but it's really for all of us, because we won't be having the people interaction, to really update our knowledge and our skills on these issues, and start to spend some really good time of becoming a bit more knowledgeable about these areas, because the more knowledgeable, the more confident we are, the better we're going to be able to help guide and so. And this is another strategy you might want to think about. This one and the next slide, Ben, because this slide here is all about the impacts of smoking on the unborn baby. Epigenetics is really saying that a mother who's a smoker affects not only herself, not only her baby, but also the, what they say, the reproductive cells within the baby. So we're talking 3 generations, very, very significant impacts. But this is just, prompt us to help you think about some of these issues. And we will be trying to bring out a lot more fact sheets. We had I think it was earlier this year, I lose track of time already. We had a workshop in Canberra talking about pregnancy, and a paper will soon be produced on that one, which will give us an idea of some of the strategies around the nation that we can look at, and MBP will be upgrading some of their fact sheets and to be able to give guidance. So, even with MBP now not having to travel so much, reinvesting some of their into helping to get good resource material out to support each of the teams. Thanks, Ben. Next one. My favourite, and this is off the latest ORIC website. And if there's nothing else we can do in this time that we're sitting at home, and that is to start to develop relations with those organisations and companies that are out there. 134 in the last round of figures in South Australia. So you've got plenty of people to start communicating with. Now, how do we work together to say, okay, let's start targeting these organisations. Find out through ORIC who are the actual organisations within your service area, and start to get the correspondence out to them, letting them know that Quit Skills is available, letting them know through not only a letter. Letter is good, letter is boring, and people file them. But create some materials. You can create videos, small video clips, and I'll touch on that a bit later. Something just, and there's plenty out there that we can see, but this is the ORIC stuff. Ben, can you click it again? And we start to target, and we can see that bodies are a really big issue, and they're everywhere, and they're also bodies who many of them have their own trust, they have their own funds in there that help them and give them the guidance. We're the experts in this field, or we can be the experts, and we've got some time to be able to do that over the coming months when we're home, and we all create our strategies. But again, as I say, if we can get all of these 3,000 plus organisations across the nation to have smoke-free policies and administer those appropriately, we'll knock this on the head. But our research is already showing that not enough, very few actually, have got smoke-free policies. They know that the policy out there, but strategies is what we need to help guide them. And Ben, if you click it again, and the bit that we'll be doing, I'll be doing, NBPU is working with us because they do a lot of training for their people to make sure within their training programs that they also have an element of no smoking, a bit of information on how they get in touch with the local and new guys. And, we're going to do this complementary bit of activity there so that we each know what we're doing, and through that training, we'll still be able to do the introductions to you guys. So we need to develop strategies, but there is potential that we can really hit this hard. But as you can see, you might remember the previous slide I had that I used to use 2,500 or 2,400 organisations. We're growing, and we're growing quite significantly. These are just the ORIC ones, and we've got another almost similar number registered under state. But we'll do some more work and give you some guidance on that one. Okay, Ben. Perennial, we're going to be putting stuff on the TISRIC website, and that has got to be our go-to place for everybody. We've got to become very familiar what to do. This is where we get to understand that whole TIS website on Health Infonet. We should know that backwards, and what resources are there. It's big, but we need to be able to utilise them a bit more. Thanks, Ben. And this is just a cut off the page that's there. It talks about yarning circles, which is really going to be a big one that, we can be much more creative. And if you have a look at some of the Facebook, sites that are really ramping up their activities, we need to do NBPU working with you and to really get the yarning places going, because I think that's going to be really important for us to really our ideas, you know, and when we get good practices, make sure they go on the TISRIC website so that we can be shared amongst our colleagues. And, you know, because we're all in this together, the famous song and for NAIDOC for reconciliation this year, one that we're not going to have because we can't get together in big groups. But, yeah, reconciliation, you know, we're all in together is really the theme. We have to work together. Next one, thanks, Ben. You know, the yarning sessions and webinars that's up for those who are members of IHAR, and we can all become members of IHAR actually. They've got good. This is just a new one that Tanya. We can probably go in and get access to that, and I think that one's on this afternoon. Actually, so it's worth going on to the IHAR website. Because she'll be talking a bit more about, you know, mental health issues and the impacts about working at home and so forth. So we're doing a big push, you know, on patron of IHAR, and you know, with all the Indigenous doctors and the various groups, we're all looking really closely at the impacts of working in isolation, working from home, etc. So yarning, and that should be doing a lot more on our yarning place. Ben, if you could press it again, and you know, the other big one that we're looking at are webinars, and they can be, you know, all facilitated through NBU, but there's nothing stopping, you know, you guys from, as a state jurisdiction, getting together and having a webinar that's for a region within South Australia, and starting to share through a webinar, which is, you know, which are out there, and I've got some examples to look at coming. But they're a great way to have an interaction with the community, and if we can start to target, you know, men's groups, and they're not going to be mentioned as groups, but they'll be there. Existing men's groups or women's groups or youth groups, and really got to focus on youth, to say, look, we've got this webinar, let's do it together, let's work together and see what we can do. So next one, thanks, Ben. These are just some examples, but that's already been, that happened earlier. But, you know, you can have a look at examples of how webinars are conducted. This one's specifically about COVID-19. And the next one, Ben. Calling in Ben. Right. Now, this is the one that's on actually. No. Press E.
Sorry, Tom, we lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, well, I'm talking. Can you hear me?
I can. You're breaking up though.
Hey, Deadly, did you hear me?
Yes, I
or
can
what?
hear you. I can hear you. Is it? Did you want to go one slide back? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So it's that one on the right hand side, the 50 acres one. That's what afternoon. Well, it might be on while we're still talking now. But you know, a lot of these are recorded. But that's another good one about 50 acres, just a you know, a good mob that works with Aboriginal people, and they put all the new ones. So you can have a look at this and get these ideas. These ones are particularly, they're doing a lot of work around how do you work in isolation. and you know, and so forth. So, all right, Ben. And this is a good one. I'll put the link up there. It's one that Mark Winnetong did up at Punapima. Look at it's only 5 minutes, and that works. So I can look at myself here. Go Ben.
Ben, I've lost the PowerPoint.
I think we all
Go
have
back
that.
to that now.
Are we all lost Ben? On A's here. I've got 3 slides left, I think.
That's it.
Okay, yeah, Mark Winnetong, and that's one worth having for all of us, because he just talks about some of our responsibilities as individuals and some of the issues. Okay, next one, thanks, Ben. But, oh no, can I just say that Facebook, I've got Facebook, some of our teams have got Facebooks. That is an area that you know, we've done a lot of training on Facebook and social media, and you know, particularly, I think this is for us to get our Facebook pages up for each of our teams and make sure they go. But we also want to hear if people are restricted in being able to get Facebook pages up because of, we need to know about that so we can have a conversation with them, because this is one of our tools of trade, and it's going to be an important one to look at. Okay, thanks, Ben. Next one there. Again, one of the big issues, and really for your information here, but we've also had some of the teams ask for more information about it, and that is the impact of COVID-19 on smoking, and whether smokers are more vulnerable, you know, to be impacted by the virus and so forth. This is just a website that, again, for your reference, and might help guide you in developing up your social media, the information you get out. But it is sobering reading. It does potentially have a big impact, and it's not just smoking tobacco products, but also vaping. Anybody that lung capacity or cardiovascular, you know, compromise, you know, are more vulnerable. So that's just for info, and that's just on the. Okay, next one. Thanks, Ben. So this is getting back to that slide I showed earlier, and you know, we've got left. So maybe you know, is there anybody who wants to come in with any ideas or thoughts about what we need to do in the, now that we've got no public contact? Any thoughts you've given so far?
Nara, unmute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I'm just going to hand you over to Jessica. We've just started some early plans to increase our social media reach. So I'm going to move, and Jessica's going to come over and talk to you. Oh, I'm on? Okay, cool. So we were, over the past few days, and including last week as well, we took a really proactive approach to having a look at what kind of things can be done in terms of population health promotion using our social media channels. So we're thinking about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a website. We haven't. Trent just said TikTok for the youth. We have an AXA newsletter as well, and a contacts list of people that we can reach through there. We were fairly fortunate in the fact I would say it would be about 10 days ago, or no, probably 2 and a bit weeks ago, we went to Ceduna and we held a community forum there, and we spoke to the community about what kind of messaging and things that they would like in that particular area, and we've been able to move that type of community forum thing to a webinar situation, we're hoping as well. So on the back of that, last week I wrote a social media brief and it's been sent to creative agencies. They're coming back with quotes for that today. And within that social media brief, we're looking at, firstly, increasing the reach of our Facebook and social media channels, specifically in the regions that we are working in. So really hitting up the remote areas and things like that. We've got 3,000 Facebook followers at the moment, but a lot of them are metro, and we need to, you know, if we're putting stuff up, one of the things that is quite evident is that we actually need to be hitting the people that we need to do. So that's the first part of the brief. The second part of the brief was to do with assistance in creating culturally appropriate visual positive messaging around the impact of smoking, you know, all of our KPIs. We have a list of key messages through there as well. Separate to that, we've developed a COVID-19 messaging suite as well. And so that is going to the creatives today. And that's really just working with the AXA team in kind of creating something that's going to be both, you know, about hand washing and all the ways to prevent COVID-19. But also, you know, we realize that smoking is probably either going to increase in some places, secondhand smoke, people being confined in their houses. But also, what am I saying? I've lost my train of thought. There was that one, but you know, if they're not able to get cigarettes, you know, support with being able to deal with the stresses of that, and in particular as well, not sharing the smokes, because that's a way to pass it on too. So I don't have any notes in front of me, so this is all off the top of my head. So there's probably a lot more stuff that we've put in there, but that's all happening and tracking at the moment. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, just with the school stuff, we're looking to do some school education lessons that are online on our website as well, so that I suppose while the schools are still running, they can access the program, especially with the schools that I've already got booked in for the next 6 months. I've emailed them and they're more than happy to do some Skype sessions. So it's just developing different ways to deliver them school programs. But yeah, hopefully the big one is to have the lessons and all on our website as well.
And then I guess finally the last, well, not the last part, but another thing we've been doing is a couple of weeks ago in Ceduna, we actually held a tobacco forum with a number of agencies over there to get some feedback on what they could see would be important to that particular region, which is something that we're going to replicate across SA. So on the back of that, we've got some great feedback on some things we can start implementing, and some of those things we can start implementing during the next 6 months when we can't visit. And of course, there's other things in that we can start actually planning for when we can hit the ground and start running. We can kind of see that through webinars, we may be able to hold some of these forums. I guess it depends on how health workers are going with the virus when it spreads. But we can't see any reason why we can't continue to sort of roll things out in a slightly different means than the way we have been, being sort of face-to-face in a room. So we don't have to slow things down, and we can continue to keep looking at these forums, see what's specific, obviously following the guidelines of our funding and our priorities, but looking at ways we can do that as well too. I think I'm going to have one more thing here, guys. Sorry.
Great. And, you know, I think...
No, that's right. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, and Quit Skill Support's another thing too that we're working with the Cancer Council to start making sure online that we might be able to have some resources or webinars to help upskill health workers to give them more confidence with things that they're able to do to help with tobacco use. So, sorry, Tom.
No, I was just going to say something too. Yeah.
that was good. I was going to say that's
Sorry to interrupt.
that challenge with
Sorry to interrupt, Tom. I just also wanted to add, because I stepped out the room to get a drink of water. I just wanted to check that the team were talking about the concept of our online events. I mean, we're still very early in deciding what they might be, considering where we're at in people's, I guess, responses to how it might affect their lives. But, the concept of online events, particularly, around World No Tobacco Day, we're just trying to be as approachable and creative and responsive as possible, knowing that people have got other things on their mind, but we will still want to keep planting those seeds around, stay smoke free. This is a good chance to stop smoking, and reaching out to people that can help them, outside the homes through the internet and through mobile phones and those types of things. And I'm sure that's what everyone's thinking, but I'd be keen to hear about what others are going to do going forward. Thanks. I'll unmute now. Is that mute?
okay. Yeah, no, what I was going to say is that I think, in listening to what's happening in the classrooms, and people have got to do a relearning if they're homeschooling that they're not familiar with. So it's an opportunity for us to develop up some of these lessons, and even big competitions or whatever for kids to start doing some work at home about smoking, the old posters and so forth, because it's a great opportunity for them to then interact with if there's any smokers in the household or amongst their extended to start the conversation, because they can't avoid it if the kid is doing a lesson at home on smoking, and just the health, the economic impacts. It's some great opportunities in these very difficult times. But I'll shut up now and let the next one go.
Sorry, before the next person goes, can I just say, Axel, we really need you on the yarning page to talk about those kinds of things, because we've started some conversation already, and we really need people like you explaining the kinds of initiatives you've got going, because I think that all sounds really, really great.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll be able to put them up.
Yeah.